I'll shoot straight with you. When I signed up for this paranormal PhD program, I did not picture myself freezing my tail off, crouched behind a gravestone, waiting on a dead guy. But here I am, and I had 10 days or less to pull off the impossible. To get my bachelor's, master's, and a cute little PhD. And I was going to do it all at one of the most prestigious institutes for the paranormal this side of the grave. Whatever the hell that means. It all started at the Institute of Metaphysical Humanistic Science School. A mouthful of a name for a place that only exists on a server. And as of right now, I've just registered for the full course load. I'm set to become a PhD, majoring in paranormal activity, minoring in Sasquatch. That's right, I'm becoming a UFO identifying, ghost whispering, cryptid hunting, Doc of the Damned. And I'm doing it all in 10 days, even if it kills me. And hell, maybe even after that. So, you want to be a wizard? Hell, so do I. I always hoped maybe I had a little something, a flicker of the uncanny, a spark of the extra normal, a dash of the I'm not like other girls. Every week or so, I give it the old Matilda try. I stare down a coffee mug or whatever's lying around like it has some secrets it's gonna cough up, expecting it to start levitating if I just squint hard enough. Doesn't hurt to try. Well, doesn't hurt me anyway. That's Angus MacDonald, named after the greatest detective that was ever written into existence. But to me, he's just Goose. Unfortunately, despite all my years of trying to flip a napkin with my mind, so far, I got nothing. Nothing but a stack of napkins. Recently, I'd been investigating a so-called psychic medium, pulling on a thread that had been irritating me for years now when I came across a school, an institute that could teach you how to hone your own psychic ability, connect to whatever power lies dormant inside all of our minds. Clicked that link so fast it blew the hair right off my head. But once I started digging into the institute, I realized they taught a hell of a lot more than that. And one of the programs taught about everything you've never thought would be in a university curriculum. Aliens, big feet, ghosts, psychic powers, and most terrifyingly, public speaking. And not only that, at the end of it, you got a bona fide PhD. My curiosity was piquing hard, and I was ready to slide a blank check across the table, but the price tag was putting me off. Was $1,000 really worth it for potential psychic powers and a PhD? I guess that depends. How much is annoying people with, actually it's Dr. Caelan Conrad worth to me? Honestly, a lot. Enter Dr. Douglas R. Kelly, a hypnotist, psychic, and ecclesiastical entrepreneur that should really consider dropping the middle initial from his bio. He's got his own church, and thanks to Florida law, he can grant all the metaphysical credentials you could ever dream of. It's all above board. So when this is all said and done, I'll have more than just arcane knowledge. I'll have a PhD, and also a badge. I'll be a certified paranormal investigator, walking the thin, translucent line between this world and the next. And maybe, just maybe, I'll finally move that damn goose with my mind. I emptied my wallet and handed over the rent money. Every last cent of it. Call it a gamble, call it a death wish, call it women's intuition. I'm half woman on my mother's side. But I had to believe this was going to be worth it. I was going to be a ghost doctor, damn it. And maybe I'd even get some views along the way. And just like that, tomorrow wasn't just any other day. It was day one at Paranormal U. Now, I've always been a bit peculiar. The doc slapped it with a label, OCD. My friends, they said it was Virgo coded, whatever the hell that means. I just knew that I needed to prepare myself before I got too far into something that was bound to bring up some of my more obsessive tendencies. My OCD has always been about doubt. A what if that never ended well. I'm here to look into the possibility that this whole PhD program is going to end with uncovering a mastermind fraud. But when out of nowhere, your brain accuses you of being a fraud, preying on your deepest fears, it can be terrifying. Like you could be committed to your partner, but get constantly hit with thoughts like, what if I don't actually love them? How do I know for certain that a relationship isn't built on a lie? Or be a really gentle, easygoing person, but keep getting stuck on the fear that deep down you aren't. What if I snap? Maybe I'm secretly dangerous. And even though these thoughts go against everything you care about, they feel so real and so wrong that it shakes you to your core. So then you engage in mental or physical behaviors to try and make the thoughts go away, but that never works in the long run. These can be signs of OCD, but because the condition is so misunderstood, many people don't realize it can show up this way. I've had OCD for my entire life, so I know how it feels to lose yourself in these spirals of overanalyzing, worrying, and trying to prove to yourself that you're not the person your thoughts say you are. It's scary, exhausting, and lonely. And that's why I've partnered with NoCD for this video. Because OCD doesn't have to take over. It's highly treatable when you get the right kind of therapy. OCD needs specialized treatment called exposure and response prevention, or ERP, and NoCD is the world's largest OCD treatment provider, with licensed therapists who specialize in ERP therapy. Therapy with NoCD is 100% virtual, covered by insurance for over 138 million Americans, and includes support between sessions, so you're never facing OCD alone. If any of this feels familiar, go to nocd.com and book a free call to learn more about how they can help. That's nocd.com to learn more and get connected to someone who can help. I set up everything I needed for the next 10 days. First, placeholders on my walls for where my new gorgeous, incredibly real degrees would go. Next step, as a lover of university-branded merch, I needed a little uniform. That much was clear. The kind of thing you'd expect from an institute worth its salt. But this place? They didn't offer one, and if they had, well, I'm not sure I would have worn it. Frankly, their branding is hideous, and worse, it's under copyright, so I had to get creative. I quickly built a satire institute, the IMHS school. The same initials, a lot more charm. The difference is unbelievable. If anyone asks you, you tell them I'm a student at the Institute of Magicological Humans School. Yeah, I know, the name's a mouthful and not a satisfying one, but it has its charm, and it's not like the original is any tastier on your tongue. From there, I cooked up a logo, sharp and slick, and it all came together with the help of a cricket who owed me a favor, the kind of favor that doesn't come without strings. And now I was ready, house prepped, brain lubed, and ready to be filled with Douglas's wisdom. So I slithered into bed with the goose and tried to sleep. Going back a moment while I was digging into the institute, I had accidentally stumbled across a curious little detail. Dr. Douglas R. Kelly had a weekly radio show. So I tuned in and took the professor to bed with me, strictly professionally. Tomorrow was day 1, Paranormal 101, and I was so excited to get started that I found it difficult to relax my mind. Eventually, though, the static cleared. I slipped off into that other place, the one behind your eyelids and just past the veil. And all I had to tether me to this side of reality was the voice of my new professor. First day of school. Here's my strategy for this little piece of journalism. I'm taking you through this with me, degree by degree, day by day. I learn, so do you. So let's crack open a nice, cold textbook and get started, because I, for one, am beyond ready for Paranormal 101. I scrolled through the website, which appeared to have been created around the time of the Great Flood, and tried to get used to the interface. Clicked around, found where I'd look up my grades, saw a long list of the previous graduates and what their doctorates were in. I was going to be on that list in less than 10 days. It wasn't a prestigious position, of course, but the idea definitely tickled my humors a bit. Now, I don't want to bore you with lots of random text on the screen, and I'd like to avoid copyright harassment, so I've made a puppet to read out any tiny and extremely fair use snippets from the course, like the following, where Dr. Douglas discusses how incredibly real the real degrees he really offers really are.
This degree program is not meant to be a cakewalk. It is meant to challenge you as a professional and as a human being. It is a big step up from traditional paranormal certification programs, because just about anyone can take and pass those.
Don't mind the wizard outfit. I was a bit faded last night when I went full Geppetto.
Many students are excited to begin their IMHS studies and share that excitement with family and friends, only to be marginalized and denigrated by comments such as, "That's not a real doctoral degree," or similar. Nothing could be further from the truth.
He's right about one thing, he goes on to say. He insists that worrying too much about what the critics say, that'll tie your hands behind your back when you're trying to sharpen your craft. But something about this doesn't sit right in my chest. the way it painted friends and family, the concerned types who just want to know if this paranormal PhD has any meat on its bones, it treated them like a problem to be ignored, the unreasonable people who are marginalizing and denigrating these students by voicing concerns. And then, that's compounded by the wholly unnecessary and unprofessional sweet nothings the professor writes, describing how rare and special the student is.
You, however, are among the comparatively few who are not satisfied with simply eking out a day-to-day existence and ignoring the great wonder and awe that is all around us.
Oof. I'm not saying it's a cult, because it's not a cult at all. I know cults. I joined one last year. This ain't that. I truly believe Dr. Douglas has good intentions. He just doesn't strike me as the type looking to reel in lost souls or build an army of glassy-eyed disciples. But good intentions don't always pave the cleanest roads, and I can't shake the feeling that, whether he means to or not, he's drawing lines in the sand. Folks who raise a brow at this so-called degree, they get cast as the enemy, the doubters, the ones who just don't get it. Suddenly, loved ones turn into villains and concern gets dressed up as prejudice. I won't say that it's manipulation, but it sure as hell walks right up to the edge of it. The course wants me to do a little introspection here. If I'm going to focus on doing what I want to do, I should probably know why I want to do it. Study metaphysics, the paranormal, or like aliens. And it asks me that outright. And I have an answer for that. It's the kind of genuine answer that feels a little disingenuous. But let's lay it out there. Yes, I wanted the scoop, the story. Hell, I wanted the title. But that's not all of it. I truly would love to live in the world of the supernatural. See, I want to believe. Not in politicians or fairy tales, but in something bigger. A world where the dead aren't just cold memories, but are waiting on the other side. But it's more than that. Why am I really digging into metaphysics? Simple. You can't fight what you don't understand, and you cannot help people get out of pseudoscientific ideologies unless you understand both their motivations and the ideologies themselves. And one of the reasons I find metaphysical claims so necessary to know how to combat is that historically, they've been used to prey on the vulnerable.
I would tell her that I love her, and I miss her.
A tearful plea from the mother of a missing teen. But when the case made national news, the Houston parents say they became inundated with calls from so-called psychic detectives. They say some even showed up at their front door, promising their psychic visions could help bring Allie home.
He guaranteed me that he'd find Allie in 3 days.
It's a dirty little world out there, and she sure as hell ain't getting any cleaner. And I've seen enough to know one thing for sure. Metaphysical claims aren't always just harmless talk over a candlelit table full of cards. It's not always just your eccentric Aunt Tabitha rambling on about what the lines on your palm mean or drawing up your birth chart. And it's not always just innocent Silver Ravenwolf instructing impressionable teenagers to practice witchcraft in secret and lie to their parents. No, unlike that, it's often dangerous, predatory. I've watched a grieving mother get fed lies by some 2-bit mystic, told her missing kid was gone, murdered even, while that child was still out there, alive, scared, waiting for someone to give a damn and come looking. I've seen faith healers do their dance, swearing the cancer's gone, just gone, all while the clock ticks and the tumor keeps ticking too, chewing through flesh, bone, time, and whatever hope's left. See, that's the heart of it. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because there's a whole market in pain and business is booming. People are exploiting the vulnerable to line their own pockets, cashing in on lives that aren't theirs to sell. And every time there's a reason. There's always a reason, an excuse, a justification, and this particular situation is no different.
I will concede that there are some in the metaphysical community whose beliefs are far out on the fringe and hang precariously suspended on pure speculation where the slightest poke brings them crashing down. This is why it is imperative that the metaphysical beliefs you choose are grounded in some type of rational thought. Science is quick to discredit the mind's demonstrable ability for psychic phenomena, while at the same time theorizing and inferring that some unseeable, undetectable, unmeasurable, and atomless stuff known as dark matter and dark energy exists, making up an astounding 95% of the universe. Citation: Wikipedia, dark matter. Sometimes what science accepts has more to do with what is currently fashionable than what may or may not make rational sense.
The mind's demonstrable ability for psychic phenomena. Wouldn't mind seeing that demonstration myself. Sounds unbelievable. And it is. There are very many moments throughout this course where the professor references compelling evidence for the paranormal. There are extremely few where he even attempts to provide any. But I'll give you an example of his version of compelling evidence. Remember September 11th? Of course you remember September 11th. We never forget. Well, in the expert opinion of the professor, something unbelievable happened that day. And I'm not just talking about the twins taking the dive. Enter Dr. Roger D. Nelson, director of the Global Consciousness Project at Princeton University. Roger had set up machines all around the world which generated random numbers and fed them back to a computer at Princeton. Roger hypothesized he could prove that all of humanity's minds were linked by showing that at times of mass emotion, the numbers would become less random. Imagine it this way. You program machines all around the world to flip a coin. 5 out of 10 times, it's heads. 5 out of 10 times, it's tails, roughly. And this happens day in, day out, until one day, all around the world, it doesn't. Something changes. And that day is September 11th, 2001. Pretty spooky stuff, right? I even thought about having goosebumps while investigating it. That is, until I found out that this anomalous event actually started 4 to 5 hours before a single plane had hit, and there was nothing for anyone to be psychically reacting to. Also, if you were to do a smidge of research, you'll find that Roger himself has said that the data is not solid enough for global consciousness to be said to exist at all. It's not possible, for example, to look at the data and predict with any accuracy what the machines may be responding to. But even more damningly, these machines failed to go off for plenty of other catastrophic events. Run these machines long enough and eventually it was bound to go off at some point on the day of something of note. But none of this seems to worry Douglas, who says that
this research offers compelling evidence that we as a global human family, a global consciousness, are connected in ways that we may have not been aware of up until now. This research appears to scientifically confirm what many of the ancient mystics have said, namely, our thoughts have an effect on reality.
Wow, I've never heard of that before. That's unbelievable. Not to the professor, though, who really seems to believe that the human mind is nearly all-powerful. Douglas goes on for a while about what metaphysics is or isn't, what this degree program is or isn't, and how valid both metaphysics and the degree program are. It makes up the bulk of the intro to the program, and I will not bore you with the details. I won't drag you through the intellectual swamp. You came here for the ghosts, the aliens, maybe a giant squirrel home invader or two. So let's cut to the chase. If you're itching for every dry morsel of academic preamble, you'll find it tucked away on my Patreon or behind the velvet rope for YouTube members. I'd almost made it through the first day and the first course, and now all that was left was to do the final exam, which felt a little quick. If this was one of a handful of courses and I'd done it in a day, I was either a genius or the courses were a bit of a cakewalk. And I didn't enroll in wizard school for the cake, and I most certainly didn't enroll for any walking. Douglas had made it extremely apparent that the exams were all open book, and was nice enough to tell people how to use the find function in a PDF. I guess he wasn't the kind of guy who cared if you remembered what he said, just that you remembered where to find it. This exam is underwhelming. We have questions like, a metaphysical degree is a real degree, true or false? I'm answering with his tastes in mind, not mine, and not science's. I think this is the first time I've noticed that the professor, he has a sense of humor, one that toes the line between satire and malpractice. It's edgy, but I like that. Hell, I respect it.
Diversity among humanity is, select one, an evolutionary mistake, not the way God intended it, an evolutionary constant, only valid among heterosexuals.
Looks like Douglas enjoys a shitpost as much as the next shit wizard. I like that. To nobody's surprise, I aced the damn thing, perfect score, completed the course with honors, in hours, just how I am. You know that if you'd seen the movie based on my life, with honors in hours. I was starting to suspect that this gig was going to be a breeze. Hell, I probably wouldn't even need the full 10 days. Like the big guy upstairs carving out the world, I figured I'd earn myself a little bit of time at the end just to kick back and admire the mess I'd just made. I had sunk 5 hours into the first day at the Institute for the Paranormal, and I needed a little time to center myself in this reality. I tried to disconnect for the night. I swear I did, but the professor's words kept reverberating through my skull. No matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't shake them.
Many students share that excitement with family and friends, only to be marginalized and denigrated by comments such as, "That's not a real doctoral degree."
It stuck with me. I couldn't help but wonder how many dinners had gone cold, how many calls went unanswered, how many lives had been affected by the idea that challenging the validity of his institute was victimization. If you hadn't noticed, I tend to get a little fixated while working a case. It's a dirty little trick my mind plays when you're knee-deep in something that don't make sense. You latch on, obsess. Well, I do. So I caved. I always do. Willpower's never been my strong suit. I couldn't disconnect. So that night, it was just me and Douglas again, his voice crackling through the radio like a ghost who refused to just stay dead. I came to the same way I went under, dead tired and worn thin with Douglas's voice in the back and foreground of my mind. But still, I was itching to hit the ground running. I rinsed off the night before and poured a couple of shots of some bitter blend down my throat, realized I should have made 9 more branded shirts, settled for one of my other 12 identical black teas, and cracked the books. I was desperate to know what a psychic hypnotist, who may or may not believe in 4-foot-tall alien squirrels, had to say about critical thinking. As I started reading through the course, it was very clear to me that the professor has a better understanding of what critical thinking is and how it works than most people you'll run into in your day-to-day. Whether he utilizes it himself, that's another story. But you know what they say, those who can't do, teach. And those who can't teach, don't. He kicks things off with the basics, and takes a lot of care to explain Occam's razor, also known as the law of parsimony. Essentially, Occam's razor is this: when faced with competing explanations for the same phenomenon, the simplest is likely the correct one. Now, Occam's razor is not a hard and fast rule, but a philosophical tool for shaving off unlikely explanations. You hear sounds on your roof, they sound like squirrels running around, perhaps the same ones you see in your yard every day, and you wonder, what could it be? It could be squirrels, but maybe it's the government. And they're pretending to be squirrels to lull you into a false sense of security before they strike. One of these is much more complicated, involved, and requires a Mormon's dozen worth of implausible events coming to pass to make this even remotely possible. If it sounds like squirrels on the roof, it's probably not Santa Claus's reindeer. Douglas often refers to it as the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. Now, he didn't come up with it, and he's not exactly using it right. I'm going to break this down because it's going to be coming up a lot. Deductive reasoning is the process of drawing valid inferences. An inference is valid if its conclusion follows logically from its premises, meaning that if the logic holds, the conclusion follows suit, clean and sharp, no guesswork, no hunches, it's the truth. Like this: if all A are B and C is equal to A, then logic follows that C is equal to B. You know what? Let's do this in my mind palace. I spent all that time last night in the tub tinkering together this little mental contraption to help us work out problems as they crop up. So where's that formula? Here we go. If all A are B and C is equal to A, then C is equal to B. Let's plug some data into this. If all birds lay eggs and pigeons are birds, then pigeons procreate by laying eggs. But with inductive reasoning, if the premises are true, yes, the conclusion is also likely to be true, but not necessarily. The professor offers us this example of inductive reasoning.
Socrates was Greek. Premise. Many Greeks eat fish. Premise. Socrates ate fish. Conclusion.
In this case, while both premises are true, the conclusion isn't sound. Probability is not necessarily reality, because we don't know what he ate. Maybe the guy couldn't stand fish. Maybe he's one of those plant-munching types like me, living off lentils and wine. Hell, for all I know, he dined like a dung beetle, feasting on crap and calling it dinner. Wouldn't be the first philosopher to spit shit when he talked. The only thing we know he ate for sure was hemlock, which is a gorgeous name for an insufferable child. Now, that's not to say that inductive reasoning has no place, but it's important to remember that correlation does not equal causation. And Douglas seems to know that. But knowing something to be true and leading your life with that knowledge are not the same thing. And while Douglas admits that some, even many, reports of the anomalous or paranormal can be explained in more other mundane ways, he insists that that isn't always the case. For instance, say you have poltergeist activity in your home. You might think that implies you're being haunted by some malevolent spirit. There's another option, one that's more in line with what we know about reality. Occam's razor. Is it a malevolent spirit? Not likely. Not likely at all. According to Douglas, most likely, it's a magic little girl on her period.
All the indications are that in the vast majority of the few cases that arise, poltergeists are not spirits or ghosts at all, but rather unconscious psychokinetic activity that originates with a human agent. In many cases, the agent is an adolescent girl going through hormonal changes, but this is not the only cause, nor are adolescent girls the only source.
And there you have it. Menstruation is witchcraft. And that's why we need to fight for better sex education in the school systems, because kids just aren't learning these things anymore. Hard to see why anyone would be skeptical or critical of a reasonable, evidence-based belief like that. After making my way through this course, I've come to the opinion that Douglas is under the belief that he follows the KISS principle, but is often following what I've coined as the lick principle. Let's ignore common knowledge. It goes, wherever there is an opportunity to explain an anomalous event in a mundane and nearly irrefutable way with nothing more than common knowledge, simply ignore that entirely. If it's not interesting or there's no drama in it, then you just don't need that kind of energy, especially when trying to prove something scientifically. To demonstrate both the licking and Daddy Douglas's love of it, I'll stop edging you with the giant alien squirrels. Buckle the hell up, because the doc has put my brain through the ringer throughout this course, and yours is about to be squeezed tight too. So he tells a story from his own personal case files where a seasoned paranormal researcher, although we never find out what spices Douglas used to season her or for what reason, reports to him that as a child, she once saw several giant squirrels, roughly 4 feet tall, standing around her bed in a dream. Remember that it was a dream, because that's going to be important later. For me, not for Douglas. When she woke up, the squirrels left, and she was able to move her eyes, but not her body. Coincidentally, there were also squirrels that she could hear walking around on her roof, although it obviously could have been a murder of Rudolph's. Now, I know what you're probably thinking the most likely explanation is, but I can promise you, whatever way you're thinking, it's not critically. I'll let Douglas explain for himself.
If all I knew was cryptozoology, I might be inclined to see this as a possible cryptozoological event involving a heretofore undiscovered species of giant squirrels.
It's all falling into place. Of course, that place is nowhere near this place.
On the other hand, if all I knew was paranormal science, I might be inclined to see this as ghost activity.
Oh, of course. Ghost squirrels.
Yet further, if I was a psychologist, I might see this as a case of sleep paralysis, or simply a child's overactive imagination.
You might, yeah. Maybe even if you weren't a psychologist. Maybe even just literally everyone who heard this story and didn't have their head in the clouds.
However, my knowledge and training in all of these fields, as well as in alien abduction phenomena, told me that this incident had all the earmarks of an alien abduction.
This is Douglas's true scientific method. Keep it stupid, stupid.
Had I not been trained in these various disciplines, I could have easily chased the wrong path, resulting in wasted time and the potential for a hit to my credibility as a researcher.
Yes, you easily could have reached the wrong conclusion, and I could see how, say, assuming something wildly unrealistic could affect your credibility as a critical thinking, reasoned investigator. It sure would have been a damn shame if you had identified the 4-foot squirrels as a dream within the first 5 seconds of the story, only to have people later say, this isn't the kooky explanation we expect from you. Okay, so if all A are B and C is equal to A, and then C is equal to B, if you see 4-foot tall squirrels in your sleep, and the things we see in our sleep are called dreams, then seeing the 4-foot tall squirrels in your sleep was indicative of an alien abduction? It's all very silly, ridiculous even. One might even go as far as to say nonsensical. But when someone brings up 4-foot tall giant alien squirrels and the skeptics laugh, that's just proof, he says, of how rotten they are. Mock a man for beliefs built on compelling evidence? Who would do such a thing? Well, I would. I like to think I played it straight with the professor, given the man his due fair and square. But this This one's off the deep end, swimming laps around reason while reason is drowning. And now I'm the bad guy for pointing out the obvious? For calling a spade, a dream a dream? If that's ridicule, then maybe it's not about me or Douglas. Maybe truth itself's got a mean streak. And it's not alone, because Douglas has one too.
To all the debunkers and hardcore skeptics, I say, until you can prove scientifically that you have a mind, stop bitching.
What do you want them to do, Dougie? Split open their skulls and show you their brain? I think we can scientifically deduce that they have a mind by the fact that they are formulating opinions, even if those opinions fly in the face of everything you believe. And I'm sorry, but why does my actual literal coursework not only have the professor addressing his critics, but he's telling them to stop bitching? Sir, unhinged. By this point, I was running low on patience, on curiosity, on the kind of goodwill that keeps a person from flipping the table and walking out into the night, never to be seen again.
Hardcore skeptics and debunkers are another group who have something to learn from critical thinking. The problem with these so-called experts is that they ignore the mountains of evidence from credible sources that says something is going on.
No true skeptic denies that when a paranormal claim is made, that something is going on, that something is happening. It's incredibly unlikely that the thing that's happening is something that's never been proven to have happened before. That the most likely answer is often the correct one. But I love the idea that skeptics are out here being like, sure, I saw the curtain move, but nothing actually happened. Instead of, yes, something happened, a little something called the wind. Throughout the day, Douglas has asked me to watch hours and hours of other people's YouTube videos as part of the curriculum, but I was saving those for when YouTube is meant to be watched, while eating dinner or shaving your head. Didn't seem to matter though, as none of the material from the videos ever seemed to crop up on the exams, so I moved on to finishing mine for the day. It was much like the day before, with questions a pinecone could get right.
Hardcore skepticism and debunking requires excellent critical thinking skills. Select one. True. False. Are you perfect? Select one. I'm perfect at being me. Hell yes. No, because I make mistakes. Nobody is perfect.
I submitted my exam, and not long after that, I got a letter from the big man himself. No, not famed cryptid Paul Bunyan. Douglas. And I'd won an award.
Hi, Caelan. It is my pleasure to present you with the Breakthrough Award for the progress you have made throughout the courses in the IMHS degree program, especially in the area of self-discovery and increased awareness.
Getting noticed feels good, even if the award's got your name on it for a revelation you never really had. But then I noticed the second letter, and this one? Well, this one wasn't as congratulatory in tone.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it appears that you only spent a little over an hour in one course, and it has several hours of videos. You are only cheating yourself by not reviewing all of the study material provided. Please go back and watch the videos.
Oh, crap. Shit.
You can now move on to the next course. It also has several hours of videos. Please watch them all. This also means that you have completed the bachelor's program with the high pass, 95.81%.
Wait. I just got my bachelor's degree?
Your digital bachelor's diploma is attached to this email. I encourage you to celebrate your achievement in some fashion, whether having a graduation party, going out with a loved one or friend, or rewarding yourself in some special and meaningful way.
Now, Douglas wasn't wrong about one thing. I'd earned a night to let loose. By some stroke of luck or fate or intelligent design, I was already throwing a party that evening for a friend's birthday. I wasn't planning to steal the spotlight. It's just not my style. But somehow, maybe through some sixth or seventh sense, the gang could tell I just pulled something off, something big. Not 9/11 big, but perhaps there was something to this collective consciousness stuff after all. After the crowd cleared out, I hit the sack. Didn't even make it to the radio before the dark pulled me under. Tomorrow, I would be climbing into bed with ghosts, spirits, poltergeists, the whole damn roster of non-corporeal things that go bump in the night. But for tonight, except for the gray goose beside me, I had the bed all to myself. I came to like a corpse that forgot to stay down. Everything hurt, and the parts that didn't were just too numb to notice. But hell, the day wasn't going to wait, not even if I asked nicely. I cracked open my books. Today's lesson, the afterlife and everything it had to offer. It probably shouldn't surprise you that Douglas believes in the afterlife and is a follower of the survival hypothesis, which is just the theory that our consciousness survives death in one form or another.
It wasn't until I did extensive research on the matter that I found rational and compelling reasons to believe that we do indeed live on. This segment explores several areas and beliefs concerning death, and offers compelling evidence that we don't actually die at all.
By then, I was down bad, real bad, practically crawling on my hands and knees, whispering for a glimpse of this so-called compelling evidence. I wasn't just asking, I was pleading. Please, sir, may I have some source?
I abhor the terms ghost hunt, ghost hunting, and ghost hunter, since I view ghosts and spirits in the same way as I do any other human being. I would never hunt them any more than I would hunt another person.
The phrase ghost hunter cracks me up. Like some tough guy out there saying he's chasing the deadliest game of all. Folks who already punched their ticket. Doesn't exactly scream high stakes. You want to find a dead guy? Go to a graveyard. They got them all laid out and labeled. Didn't Giles teach you anything?
In my own anomalous research, I've encountered spirits with individual and flawed belief systems, if I may say so, that kept them earthbound. On more than one occasion, a spirit was afraid to cross over or go into the light because he or she was afraid of going to hell.
Douglas has a score to settle with religion, and I can't say I fault him. The guy grew up tangled in the grip of a cult, the kind that knocks on doors and claims to have a direct line to Jehovah, whatever that is. That kind of thing, it leaves a mark, so it's no mystery why anything that smells like blind faith makes him trepidatious. There. I use my word of the week. Smells. Sure, religion's left more than its share of scars on the living. That much is clear. But Douglas figures it goes a step further. He thinks religious beliefs can keep hurting you long after you pass through the veil, a concept completely unrelated to religion.
We were able to help a few spirits cross over with a lot of coaching, but some we couldn't help because their fear was too great. The very thing they were most afraid of was the very condition in which they were living, hell. This first-hand experience offers compelling evidence that not only can we remain earthbound after death due to our individual belief systems, but our consciousness remains intact regarding our individual identities as well.
I'll give him this. If consciousness sticks around after the body's gone cold, I can see fear hanging on too. The kind that festers. After you're stuck in the shadows of this world, too scared to take that final step, even a decent ghost might crack. Might go from meek to malevolent, a good ghost gone bad. But Douglas thinks the fear of this is well overblown by showy attention seekers and people too deep into demons and darkness. Sure, he says, and I'm paraphrasing, that a spirit might rough you up some, tug your hair, leave a bruise or two, maybe knock you off your feet and toss you like yesterday's news. 50 Shades of Ghost kind of stuff. But there's nothing solid saying that they can do any real harm you can show to a doctor. That's why doctors never diagnose anyone with a case of the hauntings. The real trouble is in your head. It's the psychic jabs that leave the deepest scars.
Spirits are largely impotent when it comes to physical ability. The biggest threat from malevolent spirits is psychic attacks, which can manifest as fear, anxiety, feeling closed in, etc. Psychic attacks are really an attempt by the malevolent entity to intimidate and possess the victim. Malevolent spirits are nothing more than bullies, and need to be dealt with as such.
But when it comes to spirits affecting the physical world, there's a way they can do it. Through us. It's called a seance. If I ever take up the art of drag, which I won't, that'll be my name. Seance knows. Now, Douglas knows his way around a seance. He's been in more than a few, and he's not shy about spilling the tea. One of his go-to techniques goes by the name of table tipping. Sounds like a bar brawl, but it's way less fun. Picture this. A group of bored teenagers in a small town go to a farmer's field late at night and tip all of the sleeping No, wait, wrong one. A gang of hopefuls crowd around a flimsy little table. They lay their hands flat and wait. This part of the course involves sitting through a few reels of his private seances, videos he made clear weren't for sharing, so I won't. But if you're curious, What played out in those shadows looked quite similar to a different recording I dug up.
Hello. So what Carol and I are doing here is showing you what table tipping can look like. We've got a very happy spirit here working with us. It's been assisting us. I've been doing
Wants to walk out the platform.
sharing some messages with each other, and they've been very happy to sit and confirm these messages.
Yeah, so.
Would you like to say hello to Paul? Look at that.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, Paul.
Yeah.
Hello there.
Yeah, they're happy to be filmed.
At one point in his seance, Douglas calls out to the spirit and says,
I have some freaking questions.
and I have to say, so do I. First question, why do these so-called experiments always play out the same? Someone's got to lay a hand on the thing before it budges, or it's something so light, a slight sigh could send it rocking. They say the touch is psychic, a connection, but the only thing it connects to is good old muscle and nerve. If it's really the mind moving it, then show me something real. Same setup, same room, but this time, let's see the table float off the ground, clean into the air. But that doesn't happen. That never happens. Why are ghosts so lazy? Just rock a table on your own for once. Second question. Do you think we're stupid? I watch them sit in their circle, palms down, eyes wide, the table moves under their palms, and suddenly it's proof of the beyond, evidence of forces unseen. They want me to believe it's the dead saying hello, but all I see is the living playing games, moving wood with fingers and calling it a miracle. I call it what it is. A trick with way too many hands in plain sight to not be insulting to everyone they're trying to convince, including themselves. Insulting is the right word here, because this wouldn't even fool a child. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying this is nothing. It's not anecdotal evidence. It's not even a story worth breaking out at the bar. Sure, we can all agree something is happening, but I don't buy for a second that it's what you think. Let's not get it twisted. Seeing a table move only proves one thing. The table moved, which is certainly something happening, but that's all it is. The leap from motion to meaning, from muscle to mysticism, that's belief, pure and simple. Spiritual belief leading to judgment more clouded than the smoking section in the kind of place still brave enough to offer one. And Douglas, poor bastard, doesn't even realize how thick he's breathing it in, and worse, breathing it out. He can't see it, but like the preacher's least favorite daughter, Claire Gustin's, I can taste the death of logic on these words the second they leave his lips. Douglas promises that we'll get to the how to do a paranormal investigation part of being a paranormal investigator, like seances, in due course. But to be honest, I'm feeling a little edged here. I want to test out what we've learned, and I had a pretty good idea of how to do it. All I had to do was finish up the exam, and I was done for the day. The exam was like all the others. Questions like,
As with aggressive human beings, so with aggressive spirits. The only thing that truly works is select one. Standing up for oneself, punching them before they know what hit them, gaining the friendship of a bigger bully, running and screaming like a schoolgirl.
why not all four?
Regardless of the cleansing method used, getting rid of the malevolent spirits is all about taking and making a stand against them by using the most potent force available, the select one. Power of physical strength. Power of the gods. Power of belief. Power of bitching.
Sometimes I really found myself impressed with the way Douglas just didn't seem to give a shit about making the Institute seem like any other school. This isn't your regular, boring, accredited school. This is a cool, hip, fun school where the professor, dean, headmaster uses words like bitching, so you know they're down with it. Honestly, at least this exam didn't have that one question that kept popping up.
This question is empty. Choose true.
Douglas really phoned it in sometimes. I submitted the exam and officially clocked out for the rest of the day, but just because the day was over didn't mean the night didn't have other plans. The past few years, I've been hosting a show with an actress from Los Angeles. It was a history show, kind of. We called it Respect the Dead, but we were lying through our teeth. Our speciality was digging up the rotten ones, brushing the dust off their sins, and airing their dirty laundry for laughs. A private joke that turned into a public paycheck. In my spare time, I've been working on a spirit board with our particular brand of morbid humor woven through it. Just needed a few more strokes to call it done, and then I was ready to make an extremely long-distance call. And I already had someone in mind. Anita Bryant, Queen of Citrus, songbird for the sanctimonious, bigot supreme. And now, at long last, a corpse, and then a creature feature on an episode of Respect the Dead. If anyone could be baited into a posthumous temper tantrum, it was her, and if anyone could make her do it, it was me. The kids in the schoolyard said it was gayer than sin, and they were right. I would have boiled Anita's blood if she still had any, and I would have done it with a smile. If she showed her face, I'd shove another pie in it, and then I'd have a hell of a tale to tell come morning. But if memory served, the spirit board requires a minimum of 2 people's fingers to coax it into talking. So I picked up the phone and called the one soul in this whole damn city gay enough to wake the dead. Brona was there within the hour. We put on one of Anita's records, pumped the ambiance up to paranormal, and tried to summon the witch of Miami-Dade County. We waited until it got dark. I think it's dark.
Yeah, that's why we waited.
Anita Jane Bryant! But nothing happened. Nothing happened. Gay folks can tie the knot now. With each other. Doesn't that make you want to just appear and hurl Brona across the room?
Hey, I'm sitting right here. Literally right here.
You hear that, Anita? They're right here. Come and get them. We tried to contact her for what felt like an hour, but it was only 59 minutes. Anita! Brian! Get up here! We called her name. Anita Bryant! Played it nice.
Anita, sweetheart.
Anita, come on. Played it mean. You orange juice chugging bitch. Tried every shade of coaxing in the book. But if Anita's specter was still hanging around, she sure wasn't hanging with us. We'd given up and decided that even if we can't shove a pie in her face, we could still shove it in ours. We were calling it quits for good. Okay, whatever. When the planchette yanked to the side.
Did that just move itself?
I think it did.
That's so weird. It's supposed to be a ghost that does it.
Sometimes I think Brona gets a kick out of messing with me. I looked down, and there was a long hair attached from the leg of the planchette to my bracelet. And it sure as hell wasn't mine. I sent Brona home with enough pie to kill an orphan, and I hit the sack that night with something twisting in my gut. Could have been the pie, sure. Could have been the orange juice mixed with red wine. But it had the flutter of something else. Anticipation, maybe. Tomorrow was the big one. Dumble Doug was set to spill his secrets, the real stuff. He was going to teach us how to develop and use our latent psychic powers. And I was more than ready. I tuned into Douglas's radio show and let his voice fill the room like smoke. Curled up with the goose, I let the pie and wine drag me down into the dark.
Learn, live, laugh, glow, 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 glow. Welcome back to the Metaphysical Human Radio Show with your hosts, Dr. Doug and Dr. Victoria. Today, we're discussing how extremely real our degrees are.
Oh, they're extremely real. I have one on my wall right now. If that's not real, I don't know what is. How are you in this week, Douglas?
I woke up full of pie and ambition, just like it says in that Dolly Parton song. I wanted those damn psychic powers more than anything. I'd always dreamed of it. Wanted to be like that rotten pseudo-orphan Matilda from the movies. The little miss with a bad deal and too much brain. We had the same kind of childhood, the kind that leaves cracks in your bones, but where she got the gift, I got the bruises. Where she got to bend the laws of physics, all I got was the glitter kicked out of me. But now, thanks to Douglas, it was my turn. Pretty soon I'd be tossing junk across the room with nothing but a thought. Goose's litter box? That mess was about to take care of itself. And who better to learn from than someone with psychic powers themselves? Would I learn how to play guitar from someone who doesn't play guitar? Absolutely not. Because I wasn't learning how to play guitar. I was learning how to have psychic powers that I not only wanted, but were owed to me.
With the abundance of anecdotal and empirical evidence, there is no longer any question of whether psychic ability exists. There remain far too many examples of indisputable psychic ability for a reasonable person to ignore.
This is the kind of moment that begged for proof. The kind that could shut a skeptic up for good. A perfect time to roll out the ironclad evidence of psychic powers too real to deny. But just like always, there's nothing. Not a crumb of the proof that's so indisputable. In my line of work, we got a name for that. We call it horse. See, nothing good ever comes from peddling a story about paranormal powers being real beyond doubt when no one's ever managed to show them in a way that couldn't be cooked up by a clever con. Then to turn around and say anyone who questions this, they're the unreasonable one? Well, we got a name for that one too. But I'll keep that to myself. Still, just because I don't believe that these abilities have been proven to exist indisputably doesn't mean I'm not open to believing. I am. I want to believe in all of it. Something is happening. It just has to be. Now, Douglas claims that he personally has psychic abilities, has 2 of what he calls the Claires, and I love this. They sounded like a clique of ruthless girls at schools, but they were something else entirely, a nickname for all sorts of psychic powers. You've probably met the ringleader, Clairvoyance, but there are plenty of other girls in the group, each with their own nifty little trick. See, each of the Claires got aligned to something the rest of us can't touch. Clairvoyance sees what hasn't happened yet. Claircognizance knows things no one's got any business knowing. Clairsentience feels what lay beyond the world of touch. Clairaudience hears the sounds that never even got made. Clairempathy is tuned into your emotions before you've even figured out you're having them. And then there's Clairgustance.
Gustance.
Poor kid. Her folks must have had a grudge to stick her with that name. Clairgustance? Well, basically, she can taste the dead. Yeah, taste them. If that was my calling, I'd let the machine have it. And the professor?
While my own psychic ability includes claircognizance and clairsentience, I do not really think of myself as a psychic in the typical fashion. Unlike some others, I was not born with heightened psychic abilities. I've had to conduct research into the matter, as well as work to develop my abilities over the last several years, to the point that I have an uncanny and highly accurate ability to read people and situations in a way that goes beyond intuition.
As for me, call me Skeptical. It's not a power, I just don't want to be left out. Douglas seems to think, as he often does, that the Akashic Records are the perfect way to explain his beliefs. He says maybe that's where the Claires get their powers, so that those tuned into things beyond the mundane are able to connect to the Akashic Records using deliberate intent. How does a psychic know the layout of a room they've never stepped into, or the secrets of a man they've never met? Simple. They don't. Or, they're pulling pages from that silent library. Not magic, not exactly, just intent pointed in the right direction. He figures those cold chills and whispers in the dark, the ones that feel like ghosts, maybe they're not spirits at all. Maybe it's just the past bleeding through, a memory caught on a reel looping in the ether. Not haunted, just a moment being shared. Now, if the Claires are the prom queens of the psychic world, then psychokinesis is the goth kid in the back of the class who always had their bag checked at the door. You might know her by her old name, telekinesis. That's the one Matilda has. The psychic ability to move or affect an object without touching it. That's the juice I'm after. I'm not here to trade recipes with ghosts. I wanted to slam a table into the wall just by thinking about it. In the psychic world, psychokinesis is the line between reading palms for pennies and making a real difference. Hell, with my newfound powers, I might even throw on a mask and a cape. Me. Mask. Sounds unbelievable. Douglas says both humans and spirits have access to psychokinesis, but again, if you think there's a ghost using psychokinesis to throw Mummy's good china against the wall, you're probably wrong.
All the indications are that in the vast majority of the few cases that arise, poltergeists are not spirits or ghosts at all, but rather unconscious, psychokinetic activity that originates with a human agent who is psychically sensitive. In many cases, the agent is an adolescent girl going through hormonal changes, but this is not the only cause, nor are adolescent girls the only source. The agent can be anyone, regardless of age or gender.
Haunting? That's a first period. Seen a shadow person? First period. Amity-style blood dripping down the walls all heavy flow like? First period for sure. To be fair to him, he clearly states it's not always a girl going through puberty. Sometimes it's a boy. But he also seems to always state that you should be on the lookout for one, just to be safe. Douglas, look to your left. Look to your right. If you see a 12-year-old there, leave him alone. Luckily for me, the kind of psychic powers Douglas is going to teach me to access don't require preying on the grief of those left behind. Just a focused mind, a quiet room, and a goose.
When developing these abilities, it can take weeks or months to see progress. But don't be discouraged. You will see some results fairly quickly if you follow the techniques in the course combined with your own inner guidance.
First thing on the agenda was starting a psychic journal. Just me, a pen, and whatever strange truths might claw their way out of my head. After that, the daily ritual began. It goes like this. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, if you remember. Picture a room. In this room is where your psychic power comes from. On the wall of this room is a knob. Turn it and say, I increase my psychic powers. Now wait. For me, the waiting, the doing nothing, that's the hard part. And so, I called it an early night. Only thing left was to brief my new psychic notebook on how the first day as a table thrower played out. Dear Psychic Diary, today was a great start to my psychic journey. I am hopeful that I will soon feel my powers growing, and tomorrow at the Institute, I've been promised near indisputable proof that life doesn't just exist after death, but also out there, everywhere, on thousands of planets across the universe. And those people, they've been here, watching, waiting, creatures from the dark edges of the galaxy slipping through the cracks, landing real quiet on our spinning rock. Tomorrow, it's all about aliens. Sweet dreams, diary. Yours forever, Caelan Conrad. Bachelor's degree. Woke up with a crick in my neck and the aftertaste of a bad dream in my mouth. I'll give it to you straight. Aliens never stirred much in me. Flying saucers, little green men, none of it kept me up nights. Just one ever left a mark. Went by Roger, disguised like a dime store Halloween mask, mouthed like a switchblade. I didn't care what planet he was from. What mattered was that for the first time, someone on the other side of the glass felt like me. Made the whole world a little less empty. And in a city where everyone keeps their heads down and their doors shut, that meant something. Seeing someone like you, even through the TV's glow, it helps folks remember they aren't completely alone in the dark. And that's what this whole thing was about, wasn't it? Not being alone. Not after we die, and not in the universe. And we aren't, at least according to Douglas, who seems to wholeheartedly believe that not only is there life out there in the universe, but it's also been here for a visit.
It has been estimated that there are 10,000 or more civilizations advanced enough to communicate technologically in our galaxy alone, which has an estimated 200 to 400 billion stars. And this doesn't include the entire universe, with an estimated 100 billion galaxies. With these numbers, it is unreasonable to conclude that sentient, extraterrestrial life doesn't exist outside our planet. With an estimated 10,000 civilizations in our galaxy alone, it is also unreasonable to conclude that none are capable of interstellar travel. Some extraterrestrial intelligences, ETI, are likely visiting Earth. For all we know, we could have descended from the survivors of a crashed spacecraft thousands of years ago. And, of course, there is the theory that we are actually Martians who escaped Mars when it lost its atmosphere millions of years ago.
Oh, of course. Who hasn't heard that theory? That would explain why there are no humans on Mars.
But one of the big questions out there is, are they here to hurt us? Are aliens malevolent? Human nature being what it is, many people are quick to paint the typical doomsday picture of aliens invading us or abducting us for nefarious purposes.
As an example, he cites a quote from Into the Universe with Stephen Hawking.
If aliens visit us, the outcome would be as much as when Columbus landed in America, which didn't turn out well for the Native Americans. We only have to look at ourselves to see how intelligent life might develop into something we wouldn't want to meet. Such advanced aliens would perhaps become nomads, looking to conquer and colonize whatever planets they can reach.
Seems Douglas doesn't like what he has to say, and disagrees entirely. And here's his logic. Well, here's his reasoning. Well, here's how he explains why he believes what he believes. Say we know aliens exist and have civilizations because of the Drake principle. That's our rotten foundation. Building on that, Douglas claims that
any species that advances technologically to the point of interstellar space travel and hasn't annihilated itself in the process must necessarily have evolved spiritually as well.
there's no proof of this, of course, not a shred, but that doesn't stop Douglas. He's decided it's true, and that's enough for him. It's like me saying aliens would have to be polyamorous if they ever wanted to work together long enough to make it past the next star. Sure, maybe. You could believe that if you felt like it. But there's no reason to, other than it just must be true because it makes sense to you. So, rotten foundation, flawed conclusion based on it. But he keeps going.
Spiritual evolution and enlightenment must, by definition, include respect for natural universal laws such as respect for free will, the primary component of which is do no harm.
Now this don't mean a damn thing. Time and time again, all evidence we have on the evolution of technology has proven you can toss spirituality and free will out the window. There's no logical basis for this assertion, but he tries his darndest to provide one anyway.
The fact that interstellar travel takes a lot of time to achieve allows for spiritual advancement and time to work out base, animalistic, aggressive, and barbaric behaviors. It allows a species time to create a dominant, peaceful nature in which they make good galactic citizens.
Yes, developing interstellar travel could take a very long time, and it may end in a species being less aggressive, but there's literally no reason to believe that it would, or that it's an inevitability. All evidence available is in direct contradiction to this. Just look at my friends, the Animorphs. They were fighting an intergalactic war against a parasitic species that, if anything, were made more aggressive by their access to advancing technology. And that's just one example from history. Now, here's one of my favorite lines in the entire course. It encapsulates the true scientific method Douglas actually follows.
Could I be wrong? Of course. I could simply be naive, but I don't think so.
Could I be wrong? Of course. I could simply be naive, but I don't think so. I know you don't think so. Neither do flat earthers. I don't think so. Therefore, I am not. Sorry, I'm getting frustrated. He doesn't like debunkers because they ridicule his points. But again, when someone is pointing out that something is ridiculous, you can call that ridicule, but it doesn't make you any less ridiculous. When the facts are laughable, calling them that isn't cruelty, it's clarity. And wearing a clown suit doesn't make you a martyr. It makes you a clown. And look, maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I'm the naive one. But I don't think so.
And even if I am wrong, what I've written above must apply to enough species that galactic peace is preserved, in that they won't allow any aggressive species to conquer other planets. There could easily be counterparts to the United Nations out there, such as galactic federations that ensure peace in regions of the galaxy and universe.
Maybe you have faith that somewhere out there in the stars, there's a galactic version of the UN. But all that means is we got aliens in suits giving speeches, shaking tentacles under sterile boardroom lights about all the atrocities they're not going to lift a sucker to fix. But closer to home, down here in the dirt, how's our own UN holding up? Last I checked, the body count keeps rising and the scoreboard's looking grim. Real grim.
So, is there any evidence to support my hypothesis? Yes, there actually is quite a bit.
Can I see it?
The strongest support for my hypothesis is that evidence shows aliens have been visiting Earth for thousands of years.
Oh, wow, really? Well, can I see it?
If they wanted to invade us, they missed their chance to do it without a fight. Why wait thousands of years until a civilization becomes technologically advanced to try to conquer them?
For the thrill? Because they were bored of conquering easy game and wanted a challenge? No. I guess the fact that aliens haven't attacked Earth, in fact, have never even been proven to have visited Earth, is not an argument against their existence, but for their existence. And peaceful nature?
And if a new alien species comes along, then I refer back to a spiritually enlightened galactic federation to provide deterrence.
Spiritually Enlightened Galactic Federation. I hope that's their full name. Had a ring to it. Sharp, straight to the point. And helpful, too. I like when a product does exactly what it says on the tin.
Alien spacecraft don't appear hostile. They appear curious. This is also shown from some accounts by astronauts that alien spacecraft followed us to the moon, were on the moon watching us land, and are routinely visible during space shuttle flights. Some feel that we were warned off the moon, but not by destroying our spacecraft.
I'm not touching this. If you're gonna tell me astronauts said aliens followed us to the moon, get out of my face. I'm done with you. But he wasn't done with me, because then, at the end of all of this, after everything I was just put through, he basically throws it all away. He says, oh, one thing that bears mentioning is, all the abductions. Because if he's buying what all these folks are selling about close encounters, then he's gotta face the music. These stories, they ain't about peace and light. They're about getting snatched in the dead of night, poked, prodded, maybe even worse. Nothing says spiritual enlightenment like a cold slab and an unlubricated probe, right? But don't lose sleep over it. Douglas probably certainly isn't. His whole theory leans hard on what folks say happened. But somehow, their beliefs also rip his to shreds. And that doesn't shake him one bit. Funny how that works.
We have no direct proof that alien abductions are occurring, despite any compelling evidence that they are. We also don't know the bigger picture of why abductions occur. Occam's razor would suggest that we need to make sure these abductions are not the result of the human mind or human intervention such as the government for the purposes of testing and or control of the masses. If abductions are a reality, then what is. And I will fight against these alien abductors with everything I have.
I will fight against these invaders in any way I can. Not on my planet, you gray bobble-headed freak.
It seems that many abductees have residual traces of alien goo or whatever on their body after an abduction.
Alien goo! Can I be wrong? Of course, I could simply be naive. But I don't think so. I tried. You saw it. When they ask, you'll tell them I tried, right? That I tried real good? I met this girl with a stupid name once who used to say, the hardest thing in this world is to live in it. Didn't understand what she meant until Douglas walked into my life.
Could I be wrong? Of course. I could simply be naive. But I don't think so.
The exam was easy, as was to be expected.
We often refer to this as the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. Select one. Occam's razor. Mensa code. The you're too smart principle. Occam's shaver.
Occam's shaver? I needed to shake this off. I forced myself to do another daily psychic meditation, but my brain was too loud for my heart to be in it, and the lights took their time, were dim when they came. And by a week into this, I was already left wanting. The case was winding down, pieces falling into place, but something was off. Something wasn't right. I could feel it, like a whisper behind me I couldn't quite catch, like a hand on my shoulder trying to steer me towards something I couldn't see, something just out of reach. And the more I tried to ignore it, the louder it got. You're missing something, it said. You're missing something. 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 I spent the morning haunted by my own terminally naggy brain. You're missing something. Girl, shut up! And as much as I wanted to drop everything and just spend the day trying to parse out what I was missing, more than that, I wanted this all to be done with. The morning hung heavy, my thoughts gnawing at my synapses like rats in the walls. I wanted to toss the whole day aside, chase down whatever truth I was not privy to. But more than that, I just wanted this whole mess buried and gone, just like my great aunt Carol. So I resigned myself to sit down and just get the job done, finish what I started.
Inhuman spirits are believed to have never walked the earth as human beings. They are also referred to as angels, guardian angels, guiding angels, patron saints, and non-corporeal entities, NCEs. The term that paranormal investigators use to describe evil spirits is malevolent inhuman spirits, MIS, also known as malicious non-corporeal entities.
Now, Douglas admits that whether these beliefs are true cannot be scientifically proven, which to me is debatable. but then goes on to say that empirical data suggests that while something is definitely happening, albeit rarely, it's more likely coming from humans than malevolent spirits. But still, these little misses are often much harder to remove. He posits that's because it's not a home or object being haunted, but a person, possibly in order to feed off their energy like a vampire. But if it's a poltergeist, again, probably be on the lookout for a pubescent girl. Occam's razor, you know? Then, there's the shadow people, which many believe is literally anything you can't see clearly, even at night, even when your eyes are closed. But Douglas says are the kinds of things you see out of the corner of your eye, but aren't there when you turn your gaze towards them. Or maybe you saw something, but it was just someone astral projecting. Maybe you were just standing outside in the middle of a sunny afternoon. So clearly, there's a lot to know. And in order to determine not only what type of haunting is happening, but if one is truly happening at all, you need to not only know the types of hauntings, but know how to perform a proper paranormal investigation using all of the tools available, including your brain. But since my brain had been fried by Douglas over the last week, let's start with something less complicated. EMF meters. Those little beeping, flashing handheld devices you see in ghost hunting shows. They make a big display, good for impressing the locals, but what do they actually do? An electromagnetic field meter sensor doesn't actually detect EMFs. It actually detects any changes in them and then converts how intense those fluctuations are into a number. And that number gives you a little beep. So what does that have to do with ghosts? Well, nothing. These meters are really good at detecting electronics though. So if you're looking for your phone charger in the dark, you might be helped by waving this around behind your bed. But what do paranormal investigators say it has to do with ghosts? They think spirits produce or affect EMFs, and the meter will respond to that. Douglas doesn't seem all that convinced of their use on their own to identify a haunting, but in conjunction with EVPs, that's a better indication that something is happening. Just in case you were starting to think that something wasn't happening, something's happening. EVPs, or electronic voice phenomena, are interesting exercises in human psychology, to say the least. Paranormal investigators will record audio during an investigation and then listen back to it after. Any unexpected voices or sounds heard are considered EVP with various classifications. Douglas provided an example from his case files, which I won't play, but let's just say they were not what I'd call compelling. The human brain seeks patterns. It wants to make sense of the input it's getting, always hunting for order in the noise, for faces in the dark. But for some people, belief plays a strong role in that as well. A person exhaling becomes a spirit whispering, "Help me." An HVAC letting out a burst of air is a demon hissing. A cat hissing is a former librarian asking everyone to keep it down. A person in another room quietly saying the word believe is now a demon instructing the investigators to leave. I struggle to hear people in the same room as me talking sometimes. So the dead, they're not getting through to me that way. I'm much more likely to be able to at least see what the paranormal investigators are talking about when it comes to claims about seeing spirits or cryptids in film or on video. Which is why, during this course, I've been lurking on the Paranormal Encounters forum on an obscure internet site called Reddit. Here, people post photos and videos of encounters captured on camera. Sometimes they ask the group if it's the ghost who's the asshole or if they are. For instance, this photo here, which many on the forum thought was proof of a ghost. Where's the ghost? Well, it's the woman sitting in the room with them. According to the person who posted this photo, it was from 10 years ago, and his grandmother didn't remember that woman being there at all. And his grandmother had an impeccable memory for a 98-year-old woman who grew up breathing in asbestos and sucking on lead paint chips.
Probably some of the most compelling evidence this has produced.
Or it's a woman sitting in a room, and Buddy's Meemaw doesn't remember it. Do you remember every background character in your photos?
I actually got chills from this. This picture is very creepy, knowing that the land was a Native American tribe's burial ground and that the spirit looked like an elderly female Native American.
Same. I get chills. My eyes start to water and my eyes tear up. This is how I subjectively determine if something creepy is real.
Screaming, crying, and throwing up because there was a woman sitting behind a couch who you assume is an indigenous woman.
One of the scariest, creepiest paranormal photos I've seen. This is classic paranormal activity. Definitely one of the best posts I've seen.
So, just wondering if this is a doppelganger or a mimic. Have you heard voices or whistles in your house?
This post circulated for 2 weeks, with people posting more and more enhanced versions of it until they were all shitting their pants, unable to sleep because they were so freaked out about how this guy had proof of the paranormal because he saw this spirit. Oh, he did? That's unbelievable. Try telling them that, though. You'll be painted as the cold realist, the skeptic buzzkill at the seance. Just another flatfoot with a flashlight trampling over their mystery. To them, you're not helping. You're calling them liars, meddling, mocking. So why say anything at all if all you bring is doubt? But maybe they'll listen to me, Caelan Conrad, certified paranormal investigator, which I'm about to be, as I've just submitted my exam. Once again, I answered the questions as I imagined Douglas would want me to, mostly because I'd fail if I didn't. But the EVP questions were much too difficult. I had no idea what I was supposed to be hearing, and I finished the exam with my lowest score yet. I didn't know there would be ear training as part of a ghost course, but I still passed, which means I just finished everything I needed, finally, to get my master's degree. Didn't take long before Douglas sent it through. I made it onto the honor roll with cum laude. Classic Caelan. It got pinned up faster than Christ on Easter Friday, a testament to the years of hard work I'd poured into the last week. I began feeling inspired because, as far as I could tell, the worst was over. Tomorrow was the big one, the final act, Dissertation Day, D-Day. A second wind blew in, even though no window was open, and something in me kicked back to life. Eager to put everything I learned into practice, I quickly did my psychic meditation, packed up everything a good paranormal investigator might need, and then I hit the road, heading to the only place where the dead outnumber the living. And now we're back where we started, with me creeping around in a cemetery like I'm some corpse paparazzi with my camera, my EMF meter, and a little something for protection that I prepared earlier, Mr. Pointy. I didn't think I'd run into a vampire, but you'd be surprised how many things a stake to the ticker could kill. Or so I hear. I haven't tried it in practice just yet. I waited for a ghost to walk or float by or at least just be standing there, but the place stayed quiet. Too quiet. Just the kind of silence that presses against your ears until you're begging for a sound. So I started moving, slow and steady, letting the meter sing its song. A few beeps here, a couple of polite chirps there, but nothing worth writing home about. The folks on those forums, they talk like cemeteries are supernatural hotspots. Like you walk in and Casper is waiting to give you a high five. Never made much sense to me. Why would a soul stick around some plotted dirt they never cared about when they were breathing, a place they likely never even visited when they were living? Why not linger in the place where they laughed, cried, fought, lived? Why haunt a gravestone instead of the kitchen they baked in, or the bed they shared with their lover? None of it added up, but I kept walking, just in case the dead felt like talking. It was a couple hours in when it hit me. I was, without a doubt, the only one haunting this graveyard. And once it started to rain, I decided that it was high time I went into the light. At home, I decided to treat myself, and I made a light snack. And of course, I gave the goose his due, same as always, death and taxes. I decided that giving up on today so I could start early tomorrow for my final day is precisely what I needed. The fastest path to my PhD and out of this K-hole I dug for myself. Sounded good in theory, but so did a lot of things Douglas said. But the silence was thick, too thick. All day, I'd kept the voice in my head busy with noise and nonsense. Now, stretched out in the dark, there was nothing left to drown it out. It whispered the same thing it always did. Something's off. Something's missing. You're missing something. If I had any hope of sleeping, I needed a distraction. Something familiar. So I reached for the dial. The radio crackled to life. I would have one last night with Douglas. For old time's sake.
Human radio show with your hosts, Dr. Doug and Dr. Victoria. Today, we're discussing the Claires. What are they? And are you one?
That's exciting, Douglas. I'm actually 4 different Claires. And I'm going to get into every single one of them on this episode, but first I wanted to go over...
You're missing something. You're missing something. Yeah, I get it. I'm missing something. Patience. any interest in doing anything resembling work today. I made myself another Canadiano with enough espresso to give me an NDE, for research purposes, of course, and settled in to do my dissertation. Now, a traditional dissertation could be like 100,000 words, but luckily for me, I don't have to do that, because I wouldn't, not for this. Apparently, some form of dissertation used to be required by Douglas in order to receive your doctorate, but they were all so bad Douglas had to send them back to the student, which should really tell him something, but it doesn't. And that was it. 10 questions that could all double as testimonial bait. I hovered over the submit button, expecting to feel excitement or anxiety or, at the very least, relief. But I didn't. Without ceremony, I hit the button and waited. But I didn't have to wait long. I got my letter from Douglas soon after.
Dear Dr. Caelan Conrad, it is my pleasure to congratulate you for completing the IMHS degree program. Digital versions of your graduation documents, including a graduation letter as well as your doctoral diploma, can be downloaded. You may print it out on nice paper, such as parchment, using your printer's highest quality setting. Your printed documents will be shipped via USPS priority mail. Congratulations again, and I wish you the best of success in all your future endeavors.
And just like that, I was a doctor. I thought maybe I'd feel different, like after the first time I kissed a boy or after completing my first Pokedex. But I didn't feel accomplished. I felt like I was missing something. But maybe that's just how it goes. Maybe sometimes you get to the end of a story and you don't have an end to the story. Not everything gets to be wrapped up in a neat little bow. Sometimes life is more than just a story with a hero and a villain. Maybe I just needed to appreciate the journey itself, and then, like any good reporter, appreciate the privilege of getting to share that story with the world. Yeah, maybe I just needed to celebrate a little, get my gratitude and graduation on, cheer myself up. I have a few friends who completed their PhDs, so I decided to give them a call and share the good news. Hey,
Oh, hey.
I got my doctorate.
Wait, what?
How long did yours take?
Mine took like 12 years.
Oh, mine took 10 days.
Hey, Caelan, how's it going?
Just 2 doctors. By the way, how long did yours take again? Oh. I felt a little better, if I'm being honest. It's nice getting to connect with friends in a meaningful way. I've been kind of hush-hush about the story I was doing, other than on my private Discord for my members, where they get to follow along with my investigations as I do them. But maybe I'd update my socials, let the world know I was a doctor now, tease the story a bit. Now, when someone is choking at a restaurant, they'd be in luck because there would be a doctor there. But they'd also be out of luck because that doctor would be me, and I didn't study medicine or helping people in any real tangible way. Maybe I'd even put it on my LinkedIn, right after I made a LinkedIn. I probably was definitely not going to list the school I got it from, though. I like the weight of authority it gave my words, and the Institute's credibility kind of put a dampener on that for me. Not like I thought people would actually question me about it if they saw doctor and PhD in my name. I mean, even for the doctors they're trusting to treat something serious like cancer, do people actually even ask where their doctor got their PhD? Fuck. I was so stupid. I was so goddamn stupid, walking right by it day in, day out, distracted by aliens and Bigfoot and Douglas's insistence that he was trying to make the world a better place. Stupid. Night after night, I tuned into that crackling radio show, his voice pouring out like cheap vodka, preaching about lifting the woodpile higher, about handing people the reins to their own lives. He made it sound noble. Maybe in his mind it was. But he was so sure he was helping people. I wasn't. I knew this was a bold claim for someone who was charging a fee to teach psychic powers. I knew this was, in my mind, not ethical, not justifiable, not criminal in any way, even if I thought maybe it should be. But I kept coming back to one thought. It isn't hurting anyone. Not like people selling fake medicine to people with cancer. Not like telling a grieving mother that their very dead child is still alive, opening up old wounds and giving false hope. This wasn't a scam. This wasn't a con. I was getting exactly what I paid for. A front row seat to the theater of the absurd. An education in captivating nonsense. Stupid. I was missing something, yes, because I was too close. I hadn't taken a second to step back and look beyond myself. Arrogant and self-absorbed. I was chasing a story, playing a game, working my ass off for an anecdote you break out at parties. Yeah, I'm actually a doctor. Graduated recently. I minored in 4-foot-tall alien squirrels. Stupid. Of course, I wouldn't do anything to take advantage of anyone using my new status. But I could. I could leave people to believe I was more qualified than I was. I could take advantage of this PhD. The doctor in front of my name. Stupid! And I just found several graduates of the Institute, all who took one of their various energy healing programs, who seemed to be doing exactly that. On the first day, I'd seen that list of graduates, laughed that my name would be up there soon, up there next to Melinda Z, PhD, who went on to offer energy healings, angel healings, or Fred T, PhD, who convinced people with chronic pain to pay him to wave his hands near them. Book a healing Reiki session today. My name was up there next to Dr. Helen D, LMHC, PhD, specializing in trauma counseling, post-traumatic stress, assault and abuse, social anxiety and phobias, and more. Book her today on BetterHelp. Fuck. I had all the data I needed to complete the equation and answer the question I'd been holding off on since the beginning of this course. Was the Institute dangerous? I came into this with preconceived notions, as does anyone, despite what Douglas might think. There is nobody who enters a situation without a thought in their head, without experience and bias and expectations. But I try to always be open to hearing the reasoning or evidence behind the beliefs presented in the courses, when any reasoning or evidence was actually provided. My first concern came about quickly, beginning with Douglas's insistence to the students that when their friends and family said the doctoral degree was suspect or not real, that they were being marginalized and denigrated. The second concern followed not long after that, with his flattery of the students, telling them that they are, quote, among the comparatively few who were not satisfied with simply eking out a day-to-day existence and ignoring the great wonder and awe that is all around us, end quote. These two things in combination, in my opinion, serve to demarcate a line through the student's mind, to create two camps of people that exist in opposition. Those with open minds who are filled with wonder, and those who are fine slogging through life incurious and bitter, marginalizing those who dare to dream. The paranormal investigators, they took the red pill. They're awake. While I do not believe Douglas is trying to run a cult, if he were, this would be an excellent way to recruit and then keep members. This is only compounded by his clear disdain for skeptics and debunkers, and more than that, science itself. He can call it mainstream science all he wants, but he throws out the entire scientific method, only to replace it with his own. You cannot say you don't have a disregard for science when you throw out a core part of what it is. He outright says that the scientific method and science itself is a, quote, close-minded belief system, end quote, while offering no evidence to support that claim. And not needing to provide any actual evidence is, in my mind, why he needs to tear down actual science and hold up his own version instead. One where, as long as you have an open mind and look for the truth, you're now performing science. And the skeptics who claim he isn't, who say that no, despite his ridiculous religious beliefs that he erroneously passes off as science, he still needs evidence for his wild claims. Well, they're, and I quote, simply negative people who demean the human condition and belittle the plight of witnesses by their thoughtless, inconsiderate, and jaundiced pronouncements, end quote. I could spend days discussing the harms associated with fostering a sense of mistrust in science as an institution. Vaccine denialism, reliance on alternative medicines that do not work, paranoia, rejection of climate change, being pushed to vote for political parties that also rail against science, and the pipeline of bigotry, hatred, and misinformation that sends you down. And I will. Just not today. I cannot see a way in which positioning so-called mainstream science as close-minded and in opposition to true discovery doesn't have a harmful impact on the person ingesting this information, and then on the world around them as they move through it. Sending graduates out into the world armed with a PhD, a freshly completed dissertation, and an us versus them mentality, with the them being scientists and their friends and family who disagree with the Institute and its teachings, what could go wrong? And then there's the final critical issue. Douglas has no control over what these graduates do after they walk out with their PhD. But does he have no culpability in the consequences? Legally, he will not and cannot be held accountable for any harm they do. But karmically? Ethically? Well, that's a bit of a metaphysical question, isn't it? I'm a bit of a consequentialist. I believe that if the actions you're taking lead to negative outcomes, then you are liable for your part in that. Now, I'm not talking butterfly effect. I drop a coin, it's picked up by someone who then uses it to make a phone call that leads to his divorce. Not my fault, not my problem. Kind of weird you'd imply it was. But I sold a doctorate to someone who is now using it to bolster their credentials on BetterHelp? Yeah, that's direct enough for me. People place trust in those with a PhD, rightfully or not. To many, it communicates that this person is not only an expert in whatever it is they're doing or selling, they have dedicated a large part of their life to this pursuit. I assume Douglas knows this, as he's not a fool. And in my opinion, this title, the aura that comes with it, that's why many people likely take these programs. I'm sure some just want to learn about Bigfoot, but they can just go watch the damn YouTube videos that constitute the bulk of Douglas's discussion on it. You don't need his courses or his degrees in order to learn about the paranormal or metaphysics. You just need an internet connection, a library, or an elder. It's indisputable, in my opinion, that someone who claims to be able to heal chronic pain using waving hand magics would have an easier time bringing in medical patients with a doctor in front of their name and a PhD at the end of it. Who do you go to when you're ill? A doctor. And when you're at your wit's end after suffering for years in constant pain with no relief, and find a doctor who promises they can help using something none of the other doctors have tried? Well, desperation leads to a lot of poor choices. Poor choices that can cost you a lot, and not just money. I looked deep into the Institute, searching for any mention of their degrees, any reporting on their practices, but I didn't find it. I did, however, find something that pissed me the hell off. Wait. They just sell them? Honorary PhDs to any person who donates 1,000 or more? I could have just done that? Douglas, what the fuck? So, after all of this, can I prove that the Institute has caused harm? No. But does it have a clear and demonstrable potential for harm? I would say that with all the evidence provided and all of the rationale behind it, the potential for danger is, to quote Douglas, compelling to the point of it being all but proven. I've waffled back and forth about whether I should have spent money on this investigation, on whether it was worth it, whatever that means. And I've mostly landed on an answer. Yes. Setting aside the fact that chasing the truth sometimes requires you to drop some coin, maybe there will come a day that someone is considering signing up for a doctorate program just out of skeptical curiosity as I did. Now, they don't have to. I'm sure that Douglas would appreciate them donating that money to charity instead, given how his mission statement revolves around free will and doing good in the world. But also, what if a young, impressionable, and maybe even naive high school graduate is looking into a program only to find the Institute? Perhaps this will give them a better idea of what they'll learn. The course descriptions on the website are so sorely lacking in any details that I found it difficult to parse out what they were even about sometimes. Maybe the parents of that teen will find this video when trying to figure out if the degree is legit, or if they're questioning, like I was, if there was something harmful or dangerous about the programs offered. And for the people who are just in it for the PhD and want to know if you really receive it, yeah, I got it. Douglas sent me the official documents on real nice paper, a handful of awards, and my certified paranormal investigator badge. The school is not a scam in that it does what it says on the tin. Whether it's worth the cost for the actual PhD itself, I guess that depends on how much you value a piece of paper and a title. If you're just chasing the paper itself, I'll do you a favor. Go to my website in the description below and buy one, the imhsschool.com. They're only $199.99, but for an unlimited time, I'm selling them for $5 a pop. An amazing deal for a very real fake degree from an institution that doesn't exist. The Institute of Magical Logical Human School. I made one for Goose last night, and he seems to like it. If 220 of you buy one, I'll pay off my student loans, by which I mean the credit card I maxed out paying tuition. If you'd like something of actual value for your dollar, I'd say check out my merch. I made a bunch for this video. Or join my YouTube members or Patreon, where there's over 5 extra hours of content from this investigation alone. I filmed vlogs of all of the coursework I did the whole time I was filming, and I made it into a podcast. That's unbelievable. The podcast where it is. You also get access to my Discord where you can follow along with me as I do investigations. I guess I'm a doctor now, and a certified paranormal investigator. So what's next? Well, for starters, I already have my first paranormal investigation lined up. A group of people have been making their living on telling the living that they can speak to those who are no longer living. If that's true, it's going to rock the world like nothing else ever has. But if it's not, then there are some people who have countless lies to answer for. One thing I believe is true. Douglas thinks he's changing the world, and that for $1,000 a pop, you too can learn about true science. You too can find yourself, find the truth. And that's why I signed up for his course. For all my jokes, all my, yes, ridicule, I want to know, to understand. Yes, I want to believe. In truth, I always have. I've never been able to let a story slip through my fingers. It's like a little worm in my brain that I can't get out of me. Part of me used to think I could help people too. Sometimes more than that. I had dreams of saving the world, but I can't. I can't do shit for us. I never could. No one person ever could. But I can find the truth. I'm good at that. I can cut through the bullshit, the misinformation, and shine a light on what's been obscured. I don't believe in gods, monsters, or the paranormal, but I have witnessed firsthand the harm that those beliefs can cause, from mediums to faith healers to cults to conversion therapists. In the last year, I've signed up for all of them. But I don't just want to find the truth. I want to share it with you. And there's a button on your screen that will tell you when I do. You should press it. After all, who else joined the largest cult in the world just for you? But everything in due course. And right now, I've got work to do. So until next time, I'm Dr. Caelan Conrad, PhD, certified paranormal investigator. And this is Obscurus Investigations. See you soon.
Lucky, lucky girl. She got married to a boy like you. She'd kick you out if she ever knew about all the you tell me that you do. Dirty, dirty boy. You know everyone is talking on the scene. I hear them whispering about the places that you've been and how you don't know how to keep your business clean.